Hey everyone, I'm going to show off my 1/18 scale McLaren F1 collection. So McLaren F1, McLaren F1 GTR, and McLaren F1 LM. All three types are represented here. I don't have any long tails. I don't like the long tails. I might eventually buy one. I actually do own one that is damaged, and I've salvaged parts off of that one to fix a couple of these. Most of these cars were bought used. A few of them were bought damaged and repaired. This LM over here I got with no side view mirrors. I had to make my own. Part of the reason why they're not body colored. It's okay, the spoiler is black. So it'd be reasonable to say that it could have body color mirrors. It has production streetcar wheels on it, which I don't care about. I just wanted to have an LM. I think kind of actually, why not? It's different, something different. I have two Guiloys, the yellow and the red. The red one has the high-mounted mirrors, and actually the red car is a prototype. I have several Maistos. This one is Maisto as well as a silver one. I also have a parts car Maisto. There's a couple of auto arts in here. There's two Minichamps. The Minichamps are really those are the ones that are this 39 one right here. That's the Bigazzi team. And then the UNO Clinic Tokyo 1995 Le Mans winner is the other Minichamp, and they are both exquisite. Both of those cars are probably worth more than 3 or 4 of the other brands put together. As a matter of fact, if between those two cars, that's really where the collection is those two cars. All the other stuff is just kind of to have a representation of one, but these things are amazing. They're in beautiful shape. Both were bought used. I bought both used, but they're impeccable, beautifully, absolutely perfectly preserved. A couple of these UT models were excuse me, a little banged up. This golf car was actually in decent shape when I bought it on eBay. The seller forgot to tape down the doors, and one of them ripped off, and it's a whole process. I fixed it, and he actually gave me a partial refund. I was okay with it, but that car came pretty damaged. And again, a couple of the other ones as well. So I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes here and do a whole big huge thing, but just so you know, if you're buying these things on eBay, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. So this is a UT Models GTR Team Bigazzi. So here we have a apples to apples comparison, because I ended up buying 2 of these cars. I bought this one. It had a lot of damage, paint damage. I kind of sort of fixed most of that. It looked much worse than this, believe it or not, originally. I don't know if somebody used a cleaning product to clean. I don't even know what happened. This car is a nice model. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly acceptable. It's a beautiful model. It's built to high degree of the quality is great. The interiors, excuse me, reasonably detailed. It's a nice little model. If you spin it around, if you look at every little detail, you're gonna start to see little, small, tiny things that aren't, they're not perfect. Again, it's a nice model. It's in great shape. All the important details are there. It's very realistic. But for instance, there is no caliper. There's a rotor. The rotor turns with the wheel. There is no caliper. And as a matter of fact, these UT models have a tendency, if you bump them at all, these wheels sometimes come apart. They're easy to click back on, and you can just put a tiny bit of super glue on them or something. There's just little things like that. This car looks almost exactly the same. So let's put them side by side. This is a Minichamps. Comes much better packaged. It's just a lot of detail. So for instance, they both have an antenna. Right? Both have an antenna. Look at the detail on the antenna. It's such a stupid little detail, but the antenna on this one's perfect. It's exactly the way it would have been. The engine on Let's look at the UT models one for a second. I showed you the interior earlier. So let's look at the engine. The engine on this, pretty good. Look at that. That anodized gold brace is in there. A lot of detail. Pretty cool, right? That's a nice model. UT models. Let's look at the Minichamps one now. 1 second here. So this is the Minichamps Engine Bay. Look at the level of detail with this model. You're not paying all that extra money for nothing. It looks like carbon fiber on those intake tubes. Intake runners, whatever you want to call them. Look at all the details. It's amazing. Amazing level of detail. Gets better on the inside. Oh, and on this model, the front compartment opens up. There's nothing in there really. That's mostly ducting for the cooling system for the brakes, and I think that would be a brake booster or whatever. There's not much in there, but it's nice that it opens. Now with the interior, that's where it starts to get really noticeable that you've paid more money, and it's not. There's a reason why you paid more money. Alright. Look at the interior details on this car. It's incredible. Carbon fiber weave on the seats. Fire suppression system. Just every little thing is beautifully done. Apologize, this thing's pretty dusty. I didn't realize it was that dusty. It's been sitting in a box the entire time I've owned it. And then we get to the wheels here. So, like I mentioned earlier, on these cars, these Minichamps, the qualities and the detail is amazing. So look at that. You have a rotor that spins with the wheel, and you have a caliper that stays stationary. The OZ wheels, they're actually branded. The brand's on there. All those little details, beautifully executed. So if you want to pick up one of these things, throw it on a shelf. You know, you just want to kind of look at it, which is what I wanted most of my life, was just to have one to look at. You know, I didn't need an exact representation. I didn't feel like I needed all that extra detail. But then, you know, after having collected diecast stuff from diecast cars for years and having thousands of them, sometimes I want the quality over quantity. And this is a perfect representation of why. Here's our UT models. Here's that Minichamps. The differences are noticeable, even from the front here. Look at the nose on the UT models. Look at the nose on the Minichamps. We have an authentic tow hook in there. The McLaren logo is much more realistic. It's beautiful, beautifully made. I also love those the bubble headlights on these GTRs. All right, so then we have another UT models here. Maisto, this one is, as well as this one. Maistos are okay. They're cheap money. They're not too expensive. It is what it is. You get what you get. They're actually very well made for the money. Honestly, the Maistos are a great representation of the McLaren F1. They're not perfect. They're missing the two side vents here. The taillights are prototype style taillights, not the production taillights. They are certainly far from perfect, but for the money, I mean, they cost. You could pick these up at BJ's in the mid to late 90s for $12, or maybe it was 13. Might have been $12.99. In any case, let's say it was $13. That's an amazing deal. They can still be found on eBay. You can, even after shipping and handling within the United States, you can pick one up for like $25 with shipping and handling, sometimes in decent shape. Just watch for the mirrors. That's a pet peeve of mine. I want mirrors on my cars. I don't like side view mirrors that are broken off. I can't stand it when manufacturers omit side view mirrors. Even on a Hot Wheels, every one of them should have side view mirrors. It goes without saying, in my opinion. Anyway, so then we got a UT models here. This is the Golf GTR that I mentioned was damaged. Again, beautifully executed car for the money. Love it. Truth be told, someday I'll probably end up buying a Minichamps as well. And these are the Guiloy, made in Spain. The next cars for what they are. They're not proportioned perfectly, and people complain about them quite a bit. But I kind of like them. And there's things I like about them more than the standard, than some of the other brands like Maistos. Like that, they offered. Look, they're cast right into the door. The mirrors are in the door. They're metal. Unless you really bash on them, they're not going to break off. Some of the interior features details are nice. These are pretty cool. This one has a weird oversight. I don't know if this was something that the prototype car actually had, whether it opened this way, or whether just Guiloy made that mistake. I like the prop rod, by the way. But in any case, that's how this opens. So perhaps the prototype McLarens were set up this way. I don't know, but it's not technically correct. Although the taillights are more correct than the Maisto. Again, everyone has its ups and downs. If you're really into McLaren F1s, you're gonna want a couple. You're gonna want at least one of each of these brands, in my opinion. And then this is also, is this Auto Art? No, this is UT Models. Again, I got this. I mean, the spoiler was broken. You can see what the seam where I glued it. The doors were busted off. One of them was broken. One of them was just not opening properly or something. I forget what the deal was. Both doors had issues. I fixed both of them. I made the side view mirrors. They're quite imperfect, and I haven't even finished with them 100%, but I think they look decent for what they are. You know, they're the approximate shape they should be. This is a nice little model. It doesn't have the correct wheels technically. It's got production wheels, but I think it's a nice model. And I enjoy it. I wanted a papaya orange GTR LM, and that's what I got. So whatever. Maybe someday I'll find a set of wheels and swap in the correct set of wheels, but I don't lose sleep over it. This is funny. So this is a Guiloy as well, and this is a normal. It's almost like it's an LM, so it doesn't make any sense. I didn't have the spoiler. It was broken off when I got it. I bought this car with no spoiler. I didn't need a spoiler. I don't want a spoiler. I already have the GTR Harrods car in yellow with a spoiler, the Mach 1 Racing. I like the fact that this one's a mishmash of GTR and LM, and I don't even know. Whatever. The wheels are cool. Again, you're looking at almost the exact same car as that red one. Slight differences from the red one, but it is also made by Guiloy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Let me show their logo. Give them a little shout out. Guiloy, made in Spain. They make some cool stuff. I actually plan on buying a couple more 1/18 scale cars they have. Well, I'm glad they turned this thing over so you could see how nicely detailed the undercarriage is on this one. Again, little details, you know. With the Maisto, you're not getting certain things you do with other ones. And this over here is definitely the crowning jewel of the collection. I got it for a really good deal. I'm not going to say how much, but I definitely stole this car on eBay. And I bought one prior to this one for the approximately the same amount of money. And it was a scam artist. And I even thought at the time that it seemed too cheap. And something seemed fishy about it. And I went back, and the person's... Go back a few months on people's ratings, because sometimes they have great ratings from a week ago or a month ago from some of their relatives. But you go back, and people say, item never showed up, item showed up broken, wrong brand, totally misrepresented, whatever it was. This car was represented as brand new and in perfect shape and in a box and ready to go and out of California, and I never got it, and the whole thing was very sketchy, and I did finally get a refund, but I no longer deal with that seller specifically for that reason. I got my refund, and then they later on said, oh, I found the car, it came back, it was returned to me, that's why it never showed up. And I thought, well, why wouldn't you send a picture of the box with a stamp that says return to sender, or perhaps the address is incorrect? I don't know. He could be telling the truth, but it's very sketchy, and other reviews seem to mirror that I wasn't the only one who had that happen. So this is also Minichamps. It is in perfect shape. I got this one out of Belgium. Somehow, this person was willing to ship this out for next to nothing shipping and handling wise. Literally, probably less money than I would pay to ship something from California. I believe the shipping and handling charges was like maybe $12. And in total, I paid less money for this model than it goes for on average. Less than half of what it goes for on average in total. And part of that is being patient. Just be patient. Keep looking. Keep looking. There's one on there that's been on there for a year. There's a gentleman in Germany selling one. And he wants too much money, and so, whatever. It'll sell eventually, or maybe it'll never sell. Maybe he doesn't want to sell it. But he will take a crazy number. The point is, be patient. This one is as nice as the Minichamps that you saw earlier. That Team Bugazzi car that I showed you the interior on. The other Minichamps that I showed you a couple minutes ago. There is one critical and somewhat annoying flaw in this car, and I just can't figure out why. I don't understand what they were thinking or what the issue is or whatever. I'm gonna show you some nice things about this before we get to that. Look at that. Those rotors, and again, everything opens on this. Excuse me. This is the one flaw on this casting. It's an absolutely beautiful casting. I love it. This is probably my favorite 1/18 scale casting that I have, of thousands of castings that I have in many different scales. I have over 100 1/18 scale cars, and this is by far my favorite one. But it has one critical, major, annoying flaw. When you open, okay, give me 1 second. Let's get this open without damaging anything. When you open the engine compartment, the antenna, which from what I can tell is permanently in there, blocks it from opening any more than this. Let me show you how much we're talking about. That makes no sense. This engine compartment would definitely open up more in real life. It's got all that beautiful detailing that you saw in the other Minichamps. And yet, that's all it opens. Just barely. It's ridiculous. That's not how it should be. It should be, that's how much it should open. Again, the other Minichamps, just to show you, the other Minichamps opens up fine. So I don't understand what the issue was there. Somebody screwed up on that, but that's a pretty minor detail. I don't really care all that much, but somebody else might. I certainly could see somebody getting upset over that kind of mistake, unless for some crazy reason that wasn't a mistake. One last thing before I sign off. There's a little variation with this car. At night when it ran, they added two weird cross-eyed looking little high beams into this compartment right here. They somehow integrated them in there. I don't know if it was a separate compartment that they snapped on here, if they swapped it out, or if they snapped on there or bolted down or zip tied. I don't know what the hell they did. But you see this car with those two variations. Now, I wanted the most authentic version that existed, and I fell in love with this Minichamps, and I bought this one. But then I later on realized that in some ways, the one with the headlights is the one that crossed the finish line. That variation of it where they added those. I believe that stayed on there till the end of the race. I could be wrong. I can't even get a straight answer on the internet. But in any case, this car is beautifully executed in every little detail. The story with this is funny too. The gentleman who actually did the livery for this and designed this real quick, explains himself and says they basically just threw on a bunch of stuff onto a carbon fiber naked car, because that's kind of the situation that presented itself to them. They were supposed to run a different car. This was actually the prototype for the GTR McLarens. That's the crazy part, is the car that won the race was not intended to race. It was a prototype, and they just threw the stickers on it and decals and sent this thing off to Le Mans. But there was another car that had issues. I forget if it was a gearbox issue or something. I'm sure some super nerd will correct me in the comments. But the point is that this car wasn't even supposed to race, and this paint scheme, this livery, as the British say, this was just some thrown together last minute thing. And I think that's hilarious, and it makes this car that much more endearing to me. McLaren absolutely, the world was shocked when these guys won on their first try at Le Mans in 1995.